Hello and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 273, if you're keeping track, at scavengerlife.com.
And before we started recording, we have been arguing for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's a great start to the podcast, I'll tell you that.
Now,
I will
to be
say
clear, it's not an emotional argument, which is different from having an intellectual argument. That's
it was
what we
an
were having.
intellectual, business-based, numbers-based argument.
Right.
Which Jay was not numbers-based, but I was, and he was crazy.
So that's where we're starting with. Okay. Amazing Taste.
Yes.
Is a store, and it is run by Cindy.
Yes.
And her husband.
Yes.
And she posted on our last podcast, she went to the blog and put a comment and said that her husband, who they're partners and they do this full time and they sell clothes, and we've interviewed them, and those of you who know her, her and her husband are just like, they're a powerhouse. They're selling clothes like crazy. They're making $3,000-$4,000 a week gross. It's pretty incredible. Her husband, she said, got sick and had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
She didn't really follow up. It's with the whole story, so I don't know. I'm assuming he's okay, which I hope he is, and that it was temporary. But she did bring up a good point. For those of us who work with a partner, what would you do if your partner was was sick?
Right.
Like, was no longer part of the business anymore,
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Like what would we do?
I don't know. I mean, it's a really good question, and it goes to all our businesses.
I mean, I will say this. This is the way I see it. Now, if I were to some reason be sick and was no longer able to help, I've always said that this has kind of essentially been your business, and I'm like the helper.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the guy that you kind of hire to help take pictures and clean
for
and
free.
Organize.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, I'm like a free worker. You just got to feed me. So I think if I were to get sick, you could continue to run the eBay business without a problem. It would just be slower.
It would be slower, yeah. It wouldn't be at the volume.
Right.
And it wouldn't be at the organization that we have.
Now, on the other hand, if you were to get sick and not able to be part of the business, there would definitely be a period where there would be a problem, because I would have to learn things that I really haven't learned yet.
Yeah.
I don't pack and ship.
Right.
I would probably just take stuff to the post office, pay a lot more. It's money. So I would get it done.
No, I'd teach you how to ship somehow if I weren't dead.
Well, if somehow you got transported to a desert island or something, it's like that, So that would be an issue. A listing. I used to list some.
You've listed.
Remember that? I know
You've
how to list. It's just not something I list now. And now that we actually list in a much simpler way than we
it would be really fast.
Used to.
Yeah, you'd learn it really fast.
Yeah.
But it would not be fun.
Yeah.
It's nice having each person have their own job. Like you writing titles, and like I see you writing titles and doing measurements. We do measurements on items. I'm just like, I really wouldn't want to do that. I'd much rather pack and ship.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been important for us for sustainability of our business to find the things each of us like and stick to that.
The big question would be, especially for you, if I was out of commission or gone or wherever, would you get a job?
I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't want to get a job.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to, obviously.
I think I would probably become like the single guys that you see at the auctions who kind of start focusing on their certain things and try and buy the things that they can sell for more. It's money, so I'm selling much fewer items. Like, I would not be doing the volume we do now. Many fewer items, but trying to get more. It's money for each item.
Which we should do anyway, but...
Well...
Or,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying they make more money than we do.
Oh, they're spending more money on stuff they know they can flip fast.
I'm just saying, it's more of like the quick, a nickel kind of thing, It's like they're buying like silver.
Right.
They're buying like things that they know that if they pay enough for, they'll be able to make $50.
Right.
I don't know.
It's a really interesting question.
Or maybe I would hire somebody,
you'd hire someone.
But, but again, we're talking about like the life-changing
worst case scenario of, but I mean, look, it is a good question though, because what if for some reason I was like, I have to go up to my mom's house for 2 weeks. She's sick or whatever. Like I have to go, it would be, and actually my mom's had this situation where she was away, but her husband was at home and she was like, I need you to ship this stuff, and I'm going to tell you how to do it over Skype,
I mean, I should just learn how to ship, but it's just, to be proactive, we sit down and you show me how
I can show you how to do it. It's not hard.
Right.
I mean, eBay makes it easy.
I just haven't had to. I just never have had to.
Yeah, of course not, because I do. I enjoy it. I really do.
And plus, we're hoping that because I'm the older one, if someone's going to get stuck, it wouldn't be me. Now, the other thing that's interesting is not just the eBay business, but it's money part of it. I remember we were watching, a movie or TV show in the last couple of weeks, and there was like a woman whose husband had died, and she was losing her house, and she had kids, and she said, there was a scene where she's just like, "It's my husband died. I didn't know where any of the money was.
The bank accounts.
I didn't know where the bank accounts were. I didn't know how much we had. He took care of everything." I feel like I hope is like a different generation, because that's certainly not how we run our business. We both have access to all accounts. Yeah. We both do all that stuff.
We both know what the accounts are. You know more than I do, but I have access to
right, but like if I were to drop away, you would know where all the money was and know where all the money goes, and it would not be a problem.
Yeah, like that level of transparency is, I think, important.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting too, thinking about having like a parent who dies, and then they, a will over all their stuff to, it's one of the family members. And then just hearing stories of like having to go in there and figuring out, okay, how were these finances set up? I mean, like what a nightmare. Like having to figure, what bills are coming in. I mean, all
property,
what deeds, loans are owned,
all that stuff. Because that stuff has to get taken. It doesn't just wipe away. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something we're definitely people listening to this, if you have a partner and this is full time, I mean, you got to start knowing all that stuff, where all the money is,
Yeah, access to money.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Now, the other thing is, we're together. Amazing Taste has her husband. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who sell alone. Yep. And that's different. Like, what would you do if you're sick, as an individual? Like, I mean, if you're counting on selling things every week, like what happens if you can't do that for a week or 2 weeks? Like, are you going to be okay? Right. I mean, that's a much different issue, and I think that has to do with like make sure you have a savings account. Yep. Like
money saved. Like
it said, to have like 3 months of savings. Like it's whatever a monthly spending is, including your rent or a mortgage. Have that times 3. I've even heard times 6, which would definitely be a real 6 months, emergency fund. Yep. And, have that tucked away where no one ever touches that, Yeah. So that way you could be out of, pocket for that long.
Yeah. Health insurance, people.
Yeah. Have health insurance.
Have health insurance.
Seriously.
Healthcare.gov.
Because it's really, we're more like someone that works it's McDonald's, Like, we get paid only when we work.
Right.
And
exactly.
like someone it's McDonald's, if you can't work, you
don't
sick,
get paid.
There's no benefits. Right. There's no anything. Yeah. And that's really how it is. Yeah. I mean, that's why I totally understand the people who are hearing this who have full-time jobs. It's a government job. It's a corporation where you have benefits. I mean, I can understand why people don't want to leave the jobs, because there is some amount of security. Yeah. Except when they cut you and lay you off, and then suddenly there's no security. Yeah. But while they still have you on the payroll, there's a level of security. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the difference between doing eBay full time. Everything's good as long as you can run the business. You're active.
Yeah, exactly. Great way to start the podcast. I feel so much better. Well, we were sick. We had the flu for like almost 2 weeks in February or whenever, and we were running the farmhouse and doing eBay, and it was just like, I don't even know how it happened. I would just like pop Dayquil and be like, I gotta pack this stuff, you know?
Well, that's a good thing, though, kind of to wrap this part of it up. I mean, that's a good thing about eBay with having a large store. I mean, we cannot list or do anything on eBay for up to 3 months, and
stuff still sells
in our store. The only thing that needs to still happen is to ship.
So yeah.
All right, so let's talk about our week on eBay. So I actually was in a town it's myself close to here, and I went to one of the Goodwills.
Yes.
And it was what we would call the expensive Goodwills.
Yeah.
And this is what everyone talks about. You know, there are these Goodwills where you go there and, you know, shoes are selling for $10, $15. You know, they're all different price.
Right.
Like, and you know, clothes are different price. Like everything just has a different, like,
it's not just like t-shirts are $3.50 the end. It's
and it's interesting because there's another Goodwill just in the next town over. You know, they're half an hour from each other, but they're in the same area. It's totally different. It's like
different.
All shoes $3. It doesn't matter if
what kind, what brand, nothing.
It doesn't matter if it's a Prada shoe or just a crappy Hush Puppy.
Good
whatever.
for us.
It's cheaper, and that's a place that we love. Shirts all the same price,
right?
So it's perfect for scavengers if you have the knowledge.
Yeah,
you can really make
cherry
it well.
pick this stuff.
Whereas at the expensive ones, someone's making a judgment call on how much each thing is.
These are nicer shoes; they cost $15.
So I can always find things anyway.
Yeah, you did find some stuff.
I found a small amount of stuff. You know, not like I would at the $3 a shoe place.
Yeah,
where I can fill a cart.
Yeah,
I get more of like a basket.
Right.
Know? So I was talking to a lady at the counter, and I was just asking her why the prices it's different. And people might know this already, but this is what she told me. Goodwill, the kind of company, takes a state and splits it into territories.
Yeah.
And then they sell franchises
right.
of those territories. So Goodwill itself doesn't run these different territories. It's run by like basically a franchise with the Goodwill name.
Right.
And this company is paying Goodwill some percentage or cost. And then each territory just runs their stores the way they want to.
Right.
And that's why there are these different rules, you know? Like,
is Salvation Army the same? Because there are Salvation Armies that are dirt cheap, and then there are Salvation Armies that are really expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I wonder if it's similar.
And I already knew that the Goodwills were split up into territories. I just thought that they were all run by the corporate Goodwill. But it's more like McDonald's in the sense of like people buy McDonald's franchises. They make all the profit, but they have to, pay for the name, and they have to run their store a certain way.
Yes.
She told me, under the agreement of its regional franchise, they have to, give a certain amount of money to help people who can't get jobs.
Right.
And, so there's things they have to do.
Right.
But that's why, you hear those stories of like, the CEO of a region of Oregon of Goodwill is paying themselves, $800,000 a year because it's just a regional thing.
Because they can set that.
It's like they've set that. I mean, I don't know if Goodwill now has rules against that because I know that made a lot of people angry.
Yeah.
But, so that's interesting. My point in bringing all this up is, if you live in this area where your local Goodwills are really expensive, maybe just see what the next region over is and see if region price it differently.
Right, right. Because we're talking one town over, and we're like, whoa, this is really, I'm not going to shop here again.
Right, things are so different.
So expensive. Yeah. Okay, so I recently have been calling eBay a bunch about returns and just questions I have about promoted listings, etc. And what's been great is the eBay Anchor service. The service itself, the people I've got on the phone.
If you subscribe to the Anchor subscription,
the highest store level,
they supposedly give you a special phone number to get customer service.
So everyone's been great, but each time I have to wait on hold for so long. The last time I called, I waited on hold for an hour. Okay, granted, I'm calling through my computer. You know, I was actually listing on Amazon while I was doing it. It was not a big deal. But you kind of can't leave. Like, I can't go make coffee. I can't go to the bathroom. Right. You know, I'm just kind of waiting at my computer for an hour. So that's a little bit disappointing. I understand that they probably have a ton of calls if there are like 20 people handling it.
Plus, it seems like they were willing to spend more time with you. Is that correct?
And actually she apologized for the hold. She could see how long I had been holding. And I was like, it's okay. I just really need to get this taken care of.
Like, how long are you on the phone call when you talk to them?
I would say 20 minutes? 20 minutes would be long. But... Okay. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe.
Now, when you would call the other just regular...
Oh, they can't wait to get off the phone.
Right, like they're trying to be like 3 minutes,
they can't wait to get off the phone.
So it's maybe that's why...
And that's good, but to wait an hour to do it it's kind of like, why am I waiting for this service so long when, you know, but...
So are they trying to get you off the phone?
No. I mean, she, like, the last rep was like, is there anything else you have questions about? Or, like, I think that's why I'm waiting so long, because someone before me has, like, a million questions.
Now,
so.
because, and especially if they have a large store, they might have a lot of multiple issues. You know?
Right. So, like, I had 3 things I had to ask about. I was like, there's this return, there's this case, and then I have a question about promoted listings. And, so you're having a longer conversation.
And we are going to talk about all those.
Yes, we will.
In a bit. But just one last thing. So does it feel like you're getting better service?
Yes, and that's the issue. It's so much better service that you're like, I am going to wait an hour because I want them to solve my problem and give me the right answers.
If they're all American-based?
They're all, everyone I've talked to has been American-based.
Yep.
I don't know if that's...
Just because of time of day you call?
Time of day, but I've had it, you know, when I didn't have the anchor service number, didn't matter what time of day, didn't matter, you know, it was random.
Does it seem like they're more empowered? It's like...
They've solved every problem I've had.
Got it.
So, yes, I do.
Got it.
I do.
And do they seem to know the rules better?
Yes, I feel like they know the rules much better. Because you'll bring something up like... You know, this case was opened and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yep, I totally get it. Like, they don't have to look it up. I mean, they will sometimes, like with the promoted listing, she was like, I got to put you on hold. I got to double check this. But she gave me the answer.
So, well, hopefully they recognize that their wait time is too long and they either hire some more people.
And I've said it to them, too. Not this one because she acknowledged it. But before I was like... I just waited for 45 minutes to get you on the phone. Like, that's kind of long, you know. Okay, so when I did call about promoted listings, apparently Anchor Store, I talked about this last week, Anchor Store subscriptions get $25 credit per quarter for using promoted listings. And I have been using them it's only for multiple quantity items. You can't just, like, list a pair of bookends and hope they get promoted. That you don't have quantity of. So they said the way that they implement that credit is through your invoice. So say I got, you know, they sold an item for me on promoted and it was $1 fee. They said that will come out of the invoice. It'll be a credit. That $1 fee will be a credit.
So when there are the coupons to buy eBay...
Shipping
stuff.
supplies.
Don't you have to actually engage?
Use the coupon, yes.
Yes, so it's interesting. It's different.
It's different.
You don't have to actually like claim it.
Yeah, you don't have to claim it. It's kind of, it's almost like I wish that you had to claim it so that it was very concrete. Right. Like I'm claiming this credit.
But now we're trusting and we'll have to go through our invoice. And look and see if they added that.
Yeah, so the other thing too that I noticed, I didn't ask them about this, but I just realized this last night. Jay was saying, hey, for Anchor Stores, you can get it's like 1,000 free auctions per quarter? Per month.
Yep.
For Anchor Store. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of auctions on just like random stuff. But then I looked at the fee page because I noticed that they wanted to charge me the insertion fees. I'm like, why is that? because it's only for collectibles and fashion categories, which to me is so weird. It's like if they want to promote you to do auctions, move stuff, make money, make fees, just put it on everything.
So it's weird because collectibles isn't really a category.
Right, it's an umbrella category.
Right. So it could be collectible bottles, collectible books, collectible...
Right.
So the question is, how do we go through our store and figure out what's in the
collectibles, like, umbrella?
Right.
Because, look, you could go through your store and be like, what's in collectible linens? And just do those. But I'm like, well, I want to do lots of things.
How about that? What if you were to do one by one and just put it in collectible? You know, like, I want to sell this thing. Okay, it's a skirt. Okay, now it's a collectible skirt.
It just sucks to have to change the category. Yeah. Well, skirts, let's just say fashion, skirts should be in fashion anyway.
Whatever.
But vintage office supplies, vintage whatever. Yeah, I could go and change those categories, to make sure they're in collectibles.
And force it into
It just kind of sucks. Yeah. You're like, that's like a whole other thing.
Although I guess some categories might not have
a collectible thing
because they're like, no one does it.
But then again, like, you want to sell what the category is. But I'm just saying, sometimes I haven't put stuff in collectibles because I'm like, this could be a contemporary item that someone would want, but it is vintage. Blah.
And just so it's clear, you know, we are not pro-auction. But
no, I'm not pro-auction.
I actually did an interview with John, who sells all those postcards that, you know, he popped up on the blog a couple of weeks ago, and people had a lot of questions for him, just like I did. You know, he sells,
it's amazing,
you know, hundreds and hundreds of postcards with, you know, like a 14,000 item store. And so what he said was is that he has an anchor store, and he noticed that he can get 1,000 free auctions, and he normally just likes to do all buy it now, but he's like, if they're free,
just use them.
I might as well just try it. So we were like, well, let's just try it. You know, take items that we don't really care so much about, or older items,
move them, put
them at a minimum of what we would be willing to ship them for, and try it. So that's what, you know, our experiment's gonna be.
Yeah.
You know.
So look, honestly, that's a good question for me to call the eBay anchor service for, and be like, I have all these things. They're not quite in collectibles, but I do want to auction them.
How do I tell?
How do I find that through my...
There should be a search, like, show me all collectible items.
Right, and not like the subcategory. Show me the umbrella.
Right.
You know, I don't know if that's possible. I couldn't figure it out last night, so...
Okay, Amazon FBA. You know, we continue to, you know, it's just like it's like a lightweight experiment.
Yeah.
As we're scavenging for eBay, we will find items that we think are more appropriate for Amazon, as people have taught us.
Yeah.
And we put them in a box, and then Ryan every couple of weeks will, you know, scan them in, put labels on them, and send them into the a warehouse.
Like I did that this week. I did 2 boxes.
I think we do it like every 2 weeks.
Every couple of weeks we will have enough.
And it's like we said, we've really been enjoying books. These books seem to us the easiest thing to find for cheap, and the thing that people don't return. Unlike, you know, electronics, and, you know, we've been having some issues with just not a whole lot of its returns. It's just really painful when people send stuff back. And, you know, again, there's no recourse and all that stuff. And we don't have a big enough Amazon inventory where we're selling hundreds of things a day.
Then it doesn't matter.
It's 1 or 2 its returns is kind of painful.
Yeah.
Okay, so books, I've been like, all right, I want to get one of those scanning apps where I can go through a whole row, and where it just, I can scan, and then I can automatically scan something else, and automatically it's refreshes
It's a rapid scan.
Right. I've been calling it that. I don't know if there's an actual term for it, but I've been calling it rapid scan.
Yeah.
Where I can go beep, 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 beep.
With your Bluetooth scanner.
Right. I mean,
that's part of it.
Right. So, and there are apps like Profit Bandit, or there are other ones too, where we can pay a monthly fee and get that capability. Okay. But I'm cheap.
I'm cheap too. So I'm the one that brought it up.
I feel like there's a problem to solve. So someone on the blog last week said, well, there's something called Scan Power.
Yes.
And then it's a free app to scan, and then you only pay because you can actually send the item in from the actual app.
Right. You can list it from the app.
Right. So,
but you pay for that.
But it's free
just to scan.
So I was like, great. So I downloaded it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm scanned. All right, I've got to push a button every time
It's not rapid.
So I'm just like, if they're willing to make the scan functionality free, why don't they just add that very simple addition to their scanning, where once you start scanning,
it's just auto.
Because that would be really a value add.
Would be amazing.
So I don't know. Obviously, many of you are just saying like, "Shut up, just pay for the
pay
service."
the $10
Like I think Profit Band is like $10 a month.
It's like $10 a month.
I mean, it's nothing. It's like 4 cups of coffee, at Starbucks. Like I should just do it. I just, as a scavenger, I'm like, there are all these free apps.
Right.
They just need to take that half step farther to make it exactly what we want. And then they could even be taking away. I mean, then they could be competing with these other apps.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
That was my original argument. Yeah. That's my original argument.
And I even sent a message to ScanPower, and the customer service person didn't seem to really understand what
They're like, what are you talking about?
So, anyway, I know I'm complaining about a free product. It's just... it is what it is.
It's a problem we would love to see solved for small sellers.
Because we don't really sell... I'm not scanning enough books where I feel like I want to pay $10 a month.
Exactly.
Like I'm scanning like a once a week. Like I'm buying, it's 40 books a month at most.
Exactly. Like I sent in 23 books this week.
Right. So it's not like I'm going...
It's not $1,000, like some people.
Anyway, that's that's just the way it is. Okay, the other thing about Amazon is, so we did an interview with a guy a long time ago. It might have been 2 or 3 years ago.
A while ago.
His name is...
Ryan from Online Selling Experiment.
Right, and he, we caught him when he was just starting. He was kind of just out of college. He had like an accounting job, and he decided to go full-time into selling online. But he's like super motivated and smart, and his choice was, at first he was doing eBay and Amazon. Now he's full Amazon. He started a huge Amazon retail arbitrage business from what I can see. Warehouse, employees, like he finds an item, him and his friends go out to multiple different stores and buys up all the things, So that seems to be the scale he's at. Yeah. Well, he just did a post this past week, and I'll link to it on the blog, where he says, I guess in the arbitrage world on Amazon, they've been having a discussion about what the future of retail arbitrage is. Right. And I guess there's some people who are starting to be concerned that Amazon's going to start cracking down on retail arbitrage. Right. And that's because I'm thinking Amazon's getting too many complaints of people sending in stuff that's new, but it really isn't new. Like it's damaged boxes. So like, if you're going to Target, often people are buying, it's clearance items, and the clearance items have dings and damage and maybe extra stickers on it, where someone who buys it new off of Amazon are like, this isn't really new. I mean, it might be new inside the package, but the box is damaged. I mean, we've experienced that. Yeah. So we've learned that we need to say like new. So I guess what people are saying is Amazon might start requiring people who sell on Amazon, if they want to sell new, to actually give them like printouts of where they're buying this stuff, like invoices. And it sounds like just saying I bought this stuff from Target isn't enough. They want to see that you're basically a distributor. That they want to see like, I bought 300 pieces from this warehouse. Now, I'm not saying that's true. Right. I'm just saying those are the rumors that are going around. And it's interesting, I guess, like on eBay, on Amazon, they have their own conspiracy theories,
of course.
And so Ryan does a really good job, he knows that world very well. He doesn't seem as worried about it, but he's just like, these would be what his risks are. Because, if you're the kind of person that's spending, $5,000 on like a bunch of retail arbitrage stuff on your credit card, knowing you can sell it, and that's a business that you do. If for some reason you're stuck with inventory that you can't send in, that's a big risk. Right. So he's just talking about the different things that could happen and how he's going to continue to run his retail arbitrage
Very
business.
interesting.
Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. He did say that Target was a big place that he would buy a lot of his inventory. He says that now, and I don't know if this is like all across America, but he says he can no longer go into Target and buy 8 shopping carts of the same exact item, that they won't allow it.
Wow.
He can't do that anymore. Because it's funny, he had a photo of, I guess, it's Christmases ago, where he was out in front and he had like 10 shopping carts. It was a big wide shot full of stuff, and I guess that he had bought out some categories that he thought he could flip for a lot, and he says he can't do that anymore.
So they're cracking down.
So that's another thing, these stores that might not allow you to do that, which I think is weird.
Which is so weird, because we talk about this too, and it's almost like this at thrift stores too, when people get weird about paying the prices they're asking for. You're like, you're a store with priced items, and you won't let me buy them.
Who cares if I buy them?
What does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter?
It's so weird. It's so weird to me. Like, if you don't want people to buy 10 cartloads, don't put 10 cartloads out.
So anyway, I bring this topic up more of a secondhand thing. Like, I'm not an expert at this. We're babies on Amazon.
Yeah.
Total babies and newbies. But as Ryan, I feel, is much more knowledgeable. So I will link to his blog post. If you read it and
you decide.
And if you know more about this too, I would love to hear your opinion in the comments.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do our numbers for this week. We had a pretty good week on eBay. Between our 2 stores, we made getting close to $1,600. The day isn't over.
It's pretty good.
And then on Amazon FBA, here it is. We sold 9 things for like $162. But after all the fees and sending it in, we made $64.
Yeah.
So just, man, those Amazon FBA, it's so easy, you mail it in and it's done. But man, those fees are really a killer. And on Bonanza, we sold 1 item this week.
$20.
So I'll take it. Things we sold, we'll just talk about a couple things.
Yes. So one was a matchbook that had the initials of FDR, and your research said this was a matchbook that FDR had, like, on his desk.
I guess at Roosevelt, because he was president for a while,
right?
He actually had special matchbooks for him, and I'm sure that hundreds of thousands of these were probably made, and he would probably give them out and use them. But I think at this point they're rare.
Yeah,
we sold it for $130.
$130, one matchbook. The matchbook was used, so half the matches were gone. The beautiful thing was the matches were gold. I love that. The matches were gold.
Yeah. It was cool.
So that was a cool sale. I had it up for, I think, $160 or something like and she offered $130, and you just laughed. You're like, I'll take $130 for a matchbook.
And this is just one of those experiments where there were really there was nothing like this online. I saw one thing that had listed like 10 years ago, and that's the only reason why I knew about the story.
Was,
But that price was a totally made up price.
Now, what's fantastic about this thing is I looked at it and I couldn't see the initials, because they were like drawn with a sailboat and everything, and I was like, what is that? I never would have like picked that up.
Well,
so
sometimes one of us
thank God, because I would have been like, I don't know what that is. I sold a pair of antique glasses. They're kind of like John Lennon spectacles. They had yellow
like hippie kind of glasses.
They're cool. Those sold for $85. I love selling those. Those are great. So this other thing, we sold a fancy designer tub spout for, it was $100, and that was something that we had sent into Amazon. That
got sent back, and then we resold it.
Then I sent it back to myself, and I resold it. So they seem to be happy.
And so because we were having so many problems, it's with it's plumbing parts that we were selling on Amazon. Like, we're just getting too many returns. We actually just mailed them all back to ourselves, and we're just going to sell them on eBay. So,
yeah, and then they do okay. They're not like
because I feel like eBay buyers are much more understanding with quality because they actually see photos of the actual item.
Right.
You know?
Right. And look, on Amazon, you can even still put photos of the actual item, and it still gets returned.
Right.
So
even if you do, it's like new or whatever,
or even the ones where I'm like, this is open, it's not installed, but it's a used item. It's like,
yeah,
we've learned our lesson on that.
So I mean, I'm sure people that sell on Amazon, they all come across categories where they're just like, yeah, it's not
problem
worth it,
categories.
But so it's good. We can sell this stuff on eBay.
Yeah, it
just takes longer to actually list it. That's all.
I mean, a lot of stuff we sold this week was, like we always say, bread and butter. Shirts, pants.
Yeah. We were selling a lot of weird things like vintage, like a whisk or an egg beater for like $20, and
just the most random. Some fabric, some pants.
I sold a lot of like alarms, of smoke alarms.
Yeah.
Like I just had a random.
It was like 5 smoke alarms, and
I'll take it.
Yeah, it was $20. I mean, they gave us a half price offer, but I was like, get that out of storage.
Yeah. So, I mean, in total, it's this week, we sold 40 items. So, it actually sold quite a few items.
Right,
it was,
just lower priced.
Yeah, it was a good
That's
week.
fine. Get it out of my storage.
Customer issues. So, we had 2 more people buy things this week. They were offers that we accepted. And both buyers wrote back to us and said they wanted to cancel,
And, they wrote back to us after I opened the unpaid item. It's like, it's one of those situations where they're like...
It wasn't immediately afterwards.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, sorry, this was a mistake. Yeah. It was like, you do the unpaid item, and they're like, oh, I thought this was something else.
And they were both kind of weirder vintage items, so I just don't imagine it was because they found a lower price one somewhere else. I mean, maybe they did, but I feel like they were kind of like those weirder items where there aren't a lot of other ones alike.
I just think it's buyer's remorse. That's what it comes down to.
This is when you do. We sell more because we do accept offers.
Yes,
and this is just the part of doing business that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it sucks, but that's just the way it is. So I had 2 cases closed. One case was, and I'm sure you guys have had this issue before too, where someone has something shipped to them and they have a forwarding address, and then something happens with their forwarding address where it's no longer their forwarding address and it gets sent back, and like either there's postage due or you never get it back, or it's bouncing around to different whatever. Like, so that was happening with this, and this guy opened a case saying he never got his item. And since he actually acknowledged that he had some weird forwarding address, he did acknowledge that in some of his messages. After it had been about 25 days or something since he opened it, I never got the item back. I was able to close that case, so I did not owe him any money. I don't have to ship the item back to him, even though I don't have the item. So that was one of the reasons I called this week.
And also, I just want to be clear that, if a buyer makes its mistake in where it goes, where it's shipped to, and they're willing to own up to its mistake, and they're trying to find a way to fix it, we're happy to help people.
Sure.
Like, pay us more, we'll ship it again, we'll go out of our way to make sure they get the item. It's just when, like, a buyer like this, they've made it's a mistake, and then they start blaming us, and they want us to take full responsibility. They want us to take the hit. They want us to pay the extra fees, and they act like it's all our fault.
They never made a mistake.
And so that's why we then go to eBay and say, eBay, this is a customer that's not being...
Yeah. And they acknowledge that.
Yeah.
They're like, they didn't have the correct address. They
Right. So I just think that that's good to talk about, is that, not every customer is the same way.
No.
And we don't like to have to open and close cases.
Right.
But, that's sometimes what you have to do when you deal with a customer that's not being as logical.
Right. And they're not taking responsibility. Because there are lots of customers that were like, oh, no, this got sent to my old address.
Right.
Once you get it back, I'll pay the extra shipping. I'm happy to, I will totally fix that problem.
Yep.
But like you said. So the other case that I got closed is this. When someone opens a return case and they don't ship the item back within 5 days, you can have that case closed. That is a nice little tidbit to know as a seller. You have either accepted a return or you've auto-accepted it because the item doesn't fit or whatever. Or you've said, sure, return it. Print out a label, do it. If they don't do it in 5 days, you can close that case. I had to do that this week where someone said, this item didn't fit, fine, return it, no problem. They never return it. Get the case closed. So those are the things I was on the phone with eBay forever.
So things we learned in the comments. So this past week was a really good week, just hearing people talk about things. And, we had mentioned in the last podcast, someone had called in and said they didn't understand why people were selling a stuffed animal for $5,000 and that they thought there was something funny going on. But the person never really said what they thought was funny, why that would be happening. So people actually were making good points in the comments. And one of the main things is laundering money.
Money laundering, yeah.
So where you just want to send someone some money for maybe something illegal or I don't know, but you want to cover up the transaction. So you just tell the person, put something on eBay,
I'll buy it
for a ridiculous amount of cash, and then it looks like a legal transaction. And you know, I guess I could believe that. Although it's interesting why you wouldn't just list something that seemed more real, like
worth $5,000,
an expensive stereo set, have the person buy it so it looks like a normal price, but then don't ship it or ship like an empty box or something, So, but it's just because it does look suspicious when like an item that shouldn't sell for $5,000 is actually trying to sell.
I don't know. I don't have a criminal mind.
Yeah, but it is an interesting, idea of how to give money to each other.
I never would have thought that as an explanation. Yeah. I would always think that it was some kind of like weird joke or someone was trying to be a jokester and bid this thing
Someone
up.
also did make a point. They were like linking to things like here are items that sold for crazy amounts that never actually got paid for. Like it was either a prank or someone was calling it hate buying or something where you're like, hating a certain buyer. So you're going into their auctions and screwing them up,
Right.
Like just bidding them up crazy.
Yeah,
where,
that's what I would think that it is. Or this is something we learned a while ago. When you see an item, it's like a USB cable and it's $10,000 and you're like, what? Oh, that's because they don't want their listing to go down in the rankings, but they're out of stock.
Right. So
they put a crazy price on it.
So they're trying to still keep an active listing, and then they'll wait till things
maybe
come
they'll
back
get lucky. Someone will buy it for $10,000. Yeah.
Okay. A couple of the things that we're interesting that is going to take a bit of time to talk about. So someone says they had an item taken down from their store under a
Vero violation.
A VERO. Google it if you've never heard of it. That in eBay. And this is a deal. It is a very serious thing. We've never dealt with it, thank God, because it seems like it's very arbitrary. But the problem it's trying to solve is this: people selling counterfeit items.
Yeah.
So we all know that it does happen. People sell counterfeit, handbags and
shoes,
stuff like that. And so eBay has a deal with companies where they can file this claim that it's counterfeit, and then it gets taken down, and eBay is not nice about it.
And what we mean by not nice is our commenter said they shut my ability to list for 7 days.
Right.
That's hardcore.
I mean, eBay even has a thing where like the first violation, I think you get suspended for 7 days. The second is like a month.
Yep.
And the third violation, they kick you off. They ban you from
crazy.
eBay. And so it's not a joke. But the problem it causes is it seems like it's very arbitrary enforcement, Right. So this person, it was like a Monster
drink hat.
Right. And so
don't list those.
So, and if you Google it, there's just like it's definitely a rabbit hole where people are like, they said this is counterfeit, and it's not counterfeit.
Right. It's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
The problem is like a lot of us are buying this stuff at estate sales and secondhand. Like, they want to see a piece of paper from
Louis Vuitton that you bought this.
This is a real bag, and very few of us would ever have that. Right. So that's the problem. It causes confusion because you can't beat these things, really.
Right.
I mean, I guess some people, if put a lot of work into it, might be able to. So that's one reason why, we don't really go after stuff that's super high-end. It's fashion like that because we don't really know what's real and what's not real. I mean, we've talked about we will buy, like, some fancy purse at an estate sale that's really high end. So it seems like, well, in this context, this is probably real.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's arbitrary because you can Google any, high end brand name and there's like thousands and thousands of items.
Yeah.
Why is it that people get tagged?
Right. Well, that was his issue. He said, how come there are like 30 other Monster drink hats on eBay? Like, why don't they just systematically, and we've asked the same question, why don't they just systematically just like...
Or kind of like on Amazon, there are some brands where Amazon will not let anyone put that brand up.
It just cannot be listed.
Unless they're like in official designated,
I mean, Amazon does that with categories. You're like, I have a DVD. Nope, you are not in that category. Like, you cannot do it.
So that's the thing. Like, if eBay is going to do this, they should just have brands say, I don't want this. You can't
be listed.
But then at the same time, I do understand, a brand's like, I don't want counterfeit stuff put up there. And so what's a recourse if they're seeing counterfeit stuff? It's just there's not like a court of appeals. That's a thing. So
be careful.
I don't know. It's
not a good answer.
Kind of just like we're all sheep out there, just not wanting to get eaten by the wolf.
Let's finish this by saying many people on the blog said, go call eBay, explain your situation, and see if you can get your account reinstated for the 7 days. And he did.
Yep.
And it was fine.
Right. So they did get it back.
Yeah. But, he was able to list.
People have been like, oh no, I should take down all my
Coach bags and all that stuff.
So I don't know. That's
it's tough.
I mean, it's another reason why selling the weird vintage items, the long tail, is like so much safer. Just because it's just kind of like out of the it's like in the not in the shadows, but it's like not under the harsh spotlight of these huge corporations competing.
Although I do have to say, I've heard stories from commenters in the past where they'll get bureau violations on vintage stuff sometimes.
Really?
So I don't know. Who knows? It can be arbitrary. Yeah. I'm not sure.
But anytime something like that happens, definitely call eBay.
Call eBay.
It's this person that got caught for the second time said he made his mistake, or she, because they didn't call the first time they got caught.
Right.
So the second time it was even worse. Right. And they were just like, oh no, like I didn't mean for both of these things to happen.
Always
fight everyone.
Seriously. Okay, so another thing that came up on the blog that I found very, very interesting was how to make your listings mobile friendly. Now, the weird thing is there's this tool that Jamie, one of our commenters, linked to, and I did a whole blog post about it yesterday, Friday, is that there's a tool where you can see if your descriptions are mobile friendly. Now, the question is, if you're like me and you're just listing text in your description, nothing else, you're just like, this is a shirt, that should be mobile friendly. However, eBay is saying it is not mobile friendly. So there's a little snippet of code that you can add to your listings now. My theory is this, because that is a very good question. Why isn't it just plain text mobile friendly yet? I think eBay, and I'm pretty sure this is true, eBay is in between two sites. You have the old legacy eBay, and you have the new mobile friendly 2017 forward-looking eBay. And you need to bridge those things, and this snippet of code is trying to bridge those things. I believe that in 2017, this little snippet of code, it's called a viewport, and if you're a mobile developer, you know what that is, will be hard-coded into eBay. It must be. It makes no sense for it not to be. For now, you have to put it in manually.
Right. I mean,
for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, and we don't know if it really helps your listing or not, because when you look at our items before they were actually officially mobile compliant, it looked the exact same.
To me, it looked the same.
I mean, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't look any. It's different. So we're just talking about being proactive. Like, it doesn't take a lot of work, as Ryan showed how to do it.
Yeah, there's a screencast by another eBay seller that shows you how to do it in the bulk editor. It's super simple. I think you should do it. I could geek out about this all day. I'm not going to.
But just the fact that eBay does have that up means that they know, they're aware of it. And again, I just think eBay is just like this gigantic, big, huge ship.
Yeah.
So they just can't turn on a dime. It's like they're slowly, like, we have to get, 1 billion listings changed,
Exactly.
So,
yes. Yeah.
creaking.
That's how it feels. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but those of us that want to be quicker can, again,
just do it.
Be updating things and changing things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of change.
Yep. Okay. Oh, and one other thing we learned in the comments, I actually got an email, and it's kind of like something where I'm talking about the Amazon arbitrage problem. There, Shane wrote to us because he's been hearing us talk about Amazon versus eBay. He actually sent the link to that article that said that, everything's coming down on Amazon. Retail arbitrage is almost over. This woman put up a blog post, and I'm going to link to that as well on the blog. And that's the blog that it's Ryan.
Oh, is responding
to saying why he thinks some of it's true, some of it isn't true. So those of you that have been selling on Amazon or thinking about it can kind of judge. But what Shane was saying is that the problem is Amazon says that a majority of their problems are coming from Amazon doesn't consider items bought at a retail and resold to be new, So that's what they see as the problem, that they recognize that a disproportionate percentage of buyer complaints come from retail arbitrage because the products are imperfect, worn, dirty, or dusty. As many sellers don't protect their goods well enough from buying it off the shelf, put it in their car, taking it home, sending it to Amazon, and by the time they do that, the items are dinged up to where it doesn't feel new.
And Amazon doesn't have the control over that once you send it into the...
So, again, this is all kind of conspiracy theory stuff. So that's why Shane was telling us that, make sure when we're sending stuff in, don't send anything as new, send it as like new or as used, and that will be a safer place. And he was saying, and that's the great thing about eBay is that...
people are more willing to buy used stuff. They know they're buying used.
Okay. Ryan?
Yes?
What are we going to do this week? We have basically 2 more full weeks before we fly to San Francisco.
Yep.
And then begin kind of
work.
Basically a 5-week kind of trip.
Yeah.
So what do you think you're going to do this coming week?
Oh, God. I just want you all to know that question gets asked of me every morning.
Yep. We
every morning.
While we're having its breakfast, we talk about what each of us are going to do for the day.
So, I don't like it.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I started on, we had 4 big plastic bins of fabric.
Yes.
So I started working on that.
Fabric's good.
I will be doing it this whole week. The interesting thing is this past week we sold, I think, 3 pieces of fabric.
Random.
This is older stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, you'll get like a yard that'll sell for $40,
It's incredible.
Because it's, a vintage, really nice wool
cool
or something.
Thing. Yeah, totally.
So it's definitely, it's motivation to get it up.
I think it's good. And I like going through fabric, making lots of fabric. I did a burn test on something that I thought was polyester. It ended up being silk, and
it's a big piece.
A big piece. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and the reason why we got into fabric was this is stuff you can often find at thrift stores that gets overlooked. It's like
it looks like junk.
It's like in a bin somewhere, or it's in like a shelf, and it's just some grandma passed away. Their kids just gave the stuff away, and this person was a sewer, and they had really nice fabric.
I mean, there have been times where we found the most amazing wool pinstripe gorgeous fabric that you're like, who had this?
Right. And because people don't really sew like they used to, it gets overlooked at the yard sales. But it's great to sell online because it's harder to find this quality of fabric.
Right.
I don't think this is the kind of stuff that you can buy at Joann's Fabric or Michael's or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
This is like a lot of times we were finding either vintage discontinued or high-end fabrics that you're like, wow.
Interesting patterns that I don't think you can find. And so,
so it's fun. I think it's fun.
And people buy it to like upholster chairs or make little curtains or,
it's really cool. So what I'm going to do is I've been doing clothes. I've been using my phone basically as a camera to go into drafts and do clothes. I did so many skirts. I'll never buy a skirt again, I swear to God. Skirts, t-shirts. I've been doing t-shirts like crazy. But now what I have to do is coats. Oh, I did some sweaters.
Yeah.
Coats.
That's what I would like to see done.
They have to get done. They have to get
start
listed.
To do our winter clothes. You know, we have a week or two, and as many winter clothes as we can get up. That means we aren't going to be behind the ball when we come back.
They need to be listed.
End of October. Yeah,
they need to be listed.
Because like if you have a lot of winter clothes, now's the time to put it up. In the heat of August. Because people are going to start thinking about that the minute it gets cold, you know.
I swear to God, the second there's one cold day, you'll sell 3 jackets. You're like, oh, somebody thought of that, you know. Okay, so now we're going to listen to some voicemails, answer some questions, talk about some comments. The phone number is 540-407-8486, and you do have 3 minutes to leave a message.
Good morning, Jay and Ryan. Awesome podcast this morning about inventory and how much money to spend. It got me thinking about consignment, and I have an idea, a theory even, that those of you that have quit your traditional jobs or quit your 9-to-5, so to speak, and selling full-time, probably run from the idea of consignment. Those of us that sell part-time or serious part-time like myself, I feel like I have 2 jobs. I got the disease, I guess. I run toward consignment. In fact, I've even put ads on Craigslist that have worked out well. And just to give you a few examples, out yard selling last year, I saw an old motor, an old remote control airplane motor. I knew it was worth some money. And they wanted $3 for it because it was old. They didn't know what it was. And I wanted to give them $1. I finally gave $2. And I asked, do you have anything else like this in the house? Old things that you don't want to put out. To make a long story short, they had a bunch of metals, different subjects, and velvet bags with paperwork, celebrate national monuments, presidents, nature, bronze medals. They were awesome. And one thing led to another, and I was able to take all these medals home and sell them and go back and give them half. Pretty much I do. I'll sell an item for $100. They get $50. I pay all the fees, and whatever's left, I get that. It's about a 60-40 split, roughly. And there's a fella that I also do this with. I bought something from him. He gave me a great deal because I bargained him down. It was an old die-cast Corgi. You talked about Corgi in one of your podcasts, a die-cast toy truck or car that you had sold, and you did pretty well on it. It was one of your what sold videos, actually. Well, this sold for a pretty penny, and I was appreciative that I was able to get down on the price. I went back and put some money in this man's hand, and we've had a relationship for going on 12 years, and he's a successful businessman, owns a business in New York, and does this as a hobby. So I've got a picker in his 60s that runs around all weekend long looking for treasures, and once or twice a month I meet him at the flea market, and he's got a bunch of stuff for me. And he's real easy about it. There's a couple other consignments I have, same style. Now, I am in Southwest Florida, Naples. That's close to Fort Myers. and there are a lot of retired people here with a lot of accumulated stuff.
So, I mean, I think these are great stories. We've heard from other people who do consignment that seem to do well. They find these people who have really high-end items that are willing to give up a huge percentage to have it sold, and they give you the freedom to control it and, you know, sell it the way that you want to sell it. I think that's great. I think that those are very rare circumstances to find that. You know.
Here's what's interesting to me that I had never thought of, is that he's saying it's more appropriate for part-timers to want to do consignment than full-timers. I never thought he's saying that made more sense to him. I never thought of it that way. That because you don't have all the time to go look for stuff, if you're coming across people that want you to sell stuff for them.
We've just found that doing consignment makes us feel more like we're working for somebody else. You know, you know, they're unloading all the work on us. Of, you know, photographing. I mean, again, it's different if you're selling things that sell for $500. Like, that's incredible. Like, you know, send those people my way.
Right.
But often the people who want you to sell stuff for them, you know, they just have like normal kind of junk that you can find anywhere. And so why take only a percentage of just normal junk when you can just buy your own junk and sell it for full price? You know, that's my thing.
Yeah,
you know? Like, I have a friend who has been just starting in eBay this past a year, and his wife's uncle had like a 300-piece collection of these like old smoking pipes. You know, where each one's selling for like $700.
It's like a gold mine.
You know, it's like,
I mean,
I was like, dude,
it's just
300 times, you know, 700. Think about that money. I mean, you could buy like a small house for that. You know, he's like, I know. But, you know, this person who gave him this stuff, he has total freedom.
Right.
Like, there's no stress. He's making crazy money. I mean, it's like it's like a gold mine. That's like the perfect thing.
The kind of consignment you want. That's never the consignment we come across. So.
Yeah, I mean, so again, everyone has to choose what they want to choose. For us, there's just so much good stuff out there to buy for so cheap, and you get to keep all its profit. That makes more sense. Or it makes sense for the people who say they just buy the stuff.
They buy it
person.
from them.
So someone's like, hey, my grandma died and I have like a whole room of stuff. And they're like, okay, I'll give you, you know, $1,000 for all of it.
Right.
And then you can sell it at your own pace.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to us.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. My name is Shannon, and I've been listening to your podcast for a couple years now. I finally actually have a reason to call into you guys. I heard you guys talking about a teddy bear that sold for, I think you said $5,000 or something insane. A couple years ago, I used to work for a corporate job at a bank, and we were trained that if someone has a money transaction of $10,000 or more, it has to be reported to the government. And now I've heard that the laws are actually even more strict, that if it's under $10,000, it has to be tracked. So it makes criminals have to get a little more creative when it comes to their money laundering. So I actually had a woman tell me when she heard that I was selling on eBay, she said, "Oh, did you hear about Yu-Gi-Oh cards are bad for my kids now?" And I'm like, "What is she talking about? Yu-Gi-Oh cards are fine." But she's like, "No, criminals use Yu-Gi-Oh cards to just money launder on eBay, and it's so horrible. I'm not buying them for my kids anymore." But basically what was happening is that you get a Yu-Gi-Oh card that's really only worth $20, and someone is selling it for $1,000 just because they are probably selling weed or something, and they just want to give money to someone else with it kind of being on the books where they can put it down on taxes without it actually, do you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain. I'm not really a criminal myself, so I don't really know what they're doing. A similar thing that happened is that I go to the Goodwill outlet all the time, and one just opened in my area a little over a year ago, and when it first opened, there were people that would just rush the shoes. And the crazy thing was that, I understand there's valuable shoes out there because I sell shoes sometimes too, but the thing is that they would just grab any shoes, They wouldn't care if it was matching. It was crazy. But my friend told me that he saw them reselling in Camden, New Jersey, which, if you don't know, is really ghetto and dangerous because we're in like the Philadelphia, Camden area. And they would resell them for $5 a pair so that they can get the cash. So there's all these kinds of weird things going on. I set a timer for myself. I'm running on 3 minutes, but I thought I would share that information, and thanks for all you do, guys. Bye.
It's fascinating to me that somebody listens to us that is so knowledgeable about money laundering and was part of, her profession.
I guess if you work at a bank, that's the obvious thing you're always trying to find.
Yeah.
And it really makes a lot of sense. So basically, you're just using PayPal to transfer money to each other with kind of a phony sales.
Right. I mean, that's the definition of money laundering, right? Fake sales.
Yeah.
I mean, Breaking Bad, that was the whole thing with the car wash.
Yeah, that's right.
They just throw money into the till like we're making so much money, and that's how it goes.
So,
yeah, it's just online, It's just a different way of doing it. Crazy.
Hi guys, this is Tam from Tam's Vintage and More. Recently, I ordered the stickers that you can get for the tracking number from the post office to put on the business envelopes, like was discussed on your show. And it was working fine, and they were getting scanned, and I could track stuff until I brought the envelopes into the post office with me to mail them instead of dropping them in the box, and they wouldn't take them. They said that those labels are for priority mail only, and they wanted me to go home and pay the $2.50 or whatever instead of the first class stamp. So we can all see what the solution is there, but just be advised that, I don't know, maybe they'll return them sometimes. Anyway, love your show. Thanks for all the info.
So, okay, I don't know, like a month ago or something, someone had sent us a comment saying that a way you could track envelopes was through a tracking sticker that you could download off of the...
You get the sticker from the post office,
and you could put it on there. And we hadn't done our due diligence because the page on the post office site doesn't say anything about it having to be a certain level of box or anything.
Right.
It just said it's a tracking sticker.
Right.
So it made sense. We're like, okay, problem solved. After we said that publicly, then we start getting people who are like, no, that's not true. And they were right. This tracking sticker is not for first class. It's something that you actually have to pay for.
Yeah. So there's some confusion there because, like you're saying, it might sometimes work because it might just get scanned by the machines.
It's not supposed to work.
It's not supposed to.
So if you're getting it to work, it's just because it's just slipping through because there's so much volume and so much not. So,
but like you said, you give it to your postmaster, they say no.
And we're big fans of the post office, so we never want to say things that
are incorrect,
abusing the system. So we're not right. So if you want to get a letter tracked, you have to pay for the extra track.
You have to pay for that extra service. Yeah,
and it's interesting when I emailed when I interviewed John, who sells postcards. He acknowledges he is not a top-rated seller because he has no tracking.
Right.
He sends all of his postcards in a first-class envelope. There's
with
no
a
tracking
stamp,
on
right?
it. Just a simple stamp. He's totally cool with that. He says very few ever get lost, like 1 in 1,000.
Right.
And he's fine with that.
Good, yeah.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Brian. I was listening to your last podcast where you were talking about Steve Schultz going to yard sales and just asking people if they had electronics or other items that he might be a niche. And you stated that you'd never thought to do that, and I felt the same way. I never thought to do that. But then after I thought about it a little bit, I thought we'd had a few yard sales over the years, and my mother's had a couple where I helped her. And I have to say there have been people who have come to our yard sales and asked me if we had certain items that they didn't even see. Do you have this thing? And now, looking back, I think it's kind of odd that I never put two and two together to think to do that. So I just thanks for the comment or the suggestion. I might give that a shot. Thanks.
Yeah, that's something I never think to do, and I think it's partly because we don't have a specific thing we're always looking for. Like, we're not looking for always looking for video games or always looking for stereos. Like, I'm just like, what would I ask if they had?
Yeah, I think it really works for people that have their thing.
Their thing,
like,
yeah.
They always buy electronics
Right.
or arcade games
Right.
or whatever. I mean, for us, we're more scavengers. Where
Yeah.
we're just like,
what do they have?
what you got?
What do you have
And
right in front of me?
what's cheap? Like, that's what I'll get. Like, it doesn't, like, I never thought to buy that, but it's cheap, I'll get it, you know?
You know what I should ask, because our classic story that we always say is that woman had that Apple IIe in her basement, but she had some parts out, and I'm like, where's the rest of this computer? And they're like, oh, it's right here. I'm like, great, I'll take it all. Maybe I should be like, do you have any old Apple computers? They might be like, what?
You could.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey guys, my name's Amy, and I had a question for you about listing and taking pictures and cleaning stuff. Sometimes I wonder if I should spend so much time cleaning an item and, I don't know, doing other things to get it ready for photos. I wonder sometimes if I'm being really nitpicky or if it actually does pay to, you know, clean the little details of everything, like shoes. Like, do you really have to get every little tiny piece of dirt from the bottom of a shoe off? I don't know. I'd like to hear your input of, like, how much prep is really actually worth it? Like, what does it actually take to sell an item? Thanks, guys. Bye.
So I think this is a good question. And I guess it's something we each have to just make the choice on. You know,
Right.
How clean do you have to get an item?
Right.
Like for us, it depends on shoes.
Right.
Sometimes if you have a designer shoe, like I want to get that thing where it looks brand new. But if I'm selling like a work boot, I will totally take pictures with dirt on the bottom of it.
Yeah,
you know?
you're like,
I mean,
it's no big deal.
I always try and shake out the big clumps of
Yeah,
mud.
yeah.
But it will still look like a dirty boot, you know.
Especially because you're photographing them on our kitchen table. So it helps to have them a little bit clean.
So, you know, and then for other items like hard goods, like, you know, a vintage hard goods, a lot of it's just like wiping it down. Like
Right.
Mugs or...
Or
you know.
like, yeah, like, you know, if you see something like a mug, like you're saying, and it's been in someone's greasy, dirty kitchen for 20 years and they haven't touched it, yeah, you want to clean that.
But then on the other hand, if we're buying things out of like someone's barn, you know, it's been sitting there, it's like some vintage antique piece.
Right.
With like surface rust and,
Right.
you know, actually, oftentimes that kind of patina is
what you
sought
want.
after.
Right.
Like us trying to like scrub off the surface rust isn't actually a good
Yeah.
idea, you know.
Yeah.
We just kind of wipe off the dust
Yeah.
and there it is.
It just really depends on the item. Just use your best judgment. If you're looking at it and saying, oh, this thing is nasty, it's really gross and grimy, wash it.
And,
You
you know,
know?
and things like clothes, you know,
Yeah.
we try not to buy any clothes that has faults.
Right.
We try and buy clothes that is like ready to go.
At this
you know?
point in time, yeah.
Now, sometimes we'll bring some home and we're like, oh, there's a mark, there's something we didn't see. We'll try and spot it, clean it, throw it in its wash and clean it that way.
Right.
But other than that, we don't really sell clothes that have problems anymore because it's just not a worth
Oh,
it,
like
you know?
once you see the problem,
There's
make it go
too
away.
many clothes. So.
yeah.
And the best thing for you to do is use your judgment to start to list and sell, and you'll see what people are willing to accept. you
Right,
know?
exactly.
Hi, Scavenger kids. I enjoy you very much. I'm fairly new at trying to make a living on eBay, and I have a lot of clothes that I need to get rid of, and some of them are very, very nice. And in the West Coast, you guys are casual too, I can tell. But where do you get those clothing bags? Because I have everything from suits to blouses that are so nice that, where do I get those bags? Because they don't fit in the priority envelopes, and I'm still learning. Sorry if I sound weird. Thanks, bye.
You don't sound weird at all. You just sound like a scavenger. You sound like someone who's starting to sell on eBay, and there's always a million questions, you know?
Right, yeah. I mean, there's so much to learn.
I mean, that's the thing about selling on eBay or on Amazon. On one hand, it's very easy.
Right.
Pick up a phone, take a picture, a list, there it is. You know, take it to the post office and ship it. You know, like, that's the easy part. But then when you're trying to run a business, you're trying to control costs. You're trying to, keep shipping cheap, and then you really have to start thinking of the details.
Right. Well, so like you're asking, a great thing to ship clothes in are poly mailers, or, they are just bags. They're basically just thick plastic bags with adhesive on them. So we do link to those on our blog, on our resources page. I link to all the sizes I buy. If you have a store, you can buy the eBay, printed ones with your coupon. We've talked about that before.
Right. They give you a certain amount of money every quarter,
right,
to buy eBay supplies.
Branded supplies.
Right.
So it literally says eBay on the poly mailer. I bought a ton of those. I use them every single day. I pack almost everything in them.
Now, if you ship first class, there are first class bags, poly mailer bags. Is that right or not?
So first class, just as long as it doesn't say priority. I mean, it's just a gray bag. The eBay poly mailers, I use those for first class all the time.
Gotcha. But if you send something priority, there's a bag.
There's a Tyvek mailer. Right. It's like a poly mailer,
which is amazing to me that the post office just gives you free shipping supplies.
It's incredible. So if I'm shipping something priority, if it's like 2 pounds to Florida, priority, it can go in there if it fits.
And I think I heard her say something about like we're really casual, like she's trying to sell these clothes. I think what she means is like, who dresses nice these days?
Oh, so she's got like nice office wear.
If she's in California, like everyone's like
in a t-shirt. No, people do buy. No, people do buy high end.
There is a whole strata of people in America that they go to jobs they like to dress nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always buying clothes that we would never wear for ourselves. I don't think I have a full suit. I have like a sports jacket. It's whenever there's like a fancy event I've got to go to.
Right.
Other than that, I don't really have nice clothes.
Yeah. We have a few nice pieces that we've found, like high-end designers, and like, that's my piece. I'm like, that's my Ralph Lauren, like, I have to do something nice.
We're so country.
Although your nice jacket is a Dolce Gabbana. It's a nice, beautiful Italian wool.
Very good in it.
And I bought it for $7 at Salvation Army in Manhattan.
All right.
So that works for us.
Yep.
But poly mailers are great. I cannot live without poly mailers. I love them.
And those are perfect if you're selling on a regular basis. Like a lot of us, you'll start to have a shipping department.
Yeah.
A corner of a room, a shelf somewhere where all of your stuff to pack is right there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's it for It's This Week. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com for any links we talked about, and you can join the conversation over there. I like to think we share good information in this podcast, but I find sometimes there's an equal amount of good information talked about in the comments, where people are popping things in there that we would have never found out about.
You can leave a question or a comment on something you heard. Our voicemail number, again, is 540-407-8486.
We post an episode every Monday morning. On Wednesdays, we post a What Sells It's video, and lately it's been done by Steve Schultz, who we really enjoy, him and his dogs.
Yeah, the dogs. Dude, the dogs are more popular than the items that sold.
And the cool thing is on Wednesdays, people now know to come into our comments, and you can put a link to your own What Sells.
And we've got a few.
A video, and we don't mind that, show off at your store, your YouTube channel.
I open them all in like my tabs and just watch them like all day. I'll like take a break and like watch one, and I'll take another break and I'll watch one.
And it's good. So if you're learning about how to sell on eBay, these videos are good because they're not hauls where if you see what people buy, these are things that sold. So
and for how much they sold.
So you can see like a reality of kind of like what's possible.
Yep.
You can subscribe to us through iTunes or through YouTube, so we're kind of in both places. Someone was mentioning that if you listen to us through iTunes, you can listen on at your phone and still do stuff, take pictures, like it automatically plays. Whereas if you listen to us on a YouTube, you have to keep that
YouTube app open.
So it really depends. And this is kind of an ego thing on iTunes. If you want to leave us a review over there,
wow,
I always read those and appreciate those.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, Oh, that's cool. I forgot about those.
I'm always keeping an eye on,
seeing if people are.
And also that helps if people stumble across our podcast. They might read those things and see if people enjoy it. If you're wanting to hear more of our voices, we actually do another podcast, and that's at shampooandbooze.com, and that's where we talk about this rental business we have that we funded with our eBay business. And so you can hear how it's very Wild West over there. We're really trying to figure it's this stuff out. So you can hear that over there.
And we are ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1, 0.
Bye.